Before the law, the gate of destiny. Before the gate of destiny stood a gatekeeper. To this gatekeeper came a man from the country and asked to be admitted into destiny. But the gatekeeper said, "Not right now." The man thought it over and asked if he would be allowed to enter later. "It is possible," said the gatekeeper, "but not right now." The gate of destiny always stands open. As the man peered inside, the gatekeeper laughed and said, "If you are so tempted, try to push past me and go in. But note this, I am powerful, and I am only the lowest of the gatekeepers. From hall to hall, there is one gatekeeper after another, each more terrible than the last. I cannot even bear to look at the face of the third one." The man from the country had not expected such difficulties. Destiny should be open to everyone, at all times, he thought. But looking at the terrifying appearance of the gatekeeper, the man decided, "It is better to wait here until I get permission to enter." The man sat down by the gate and waited for days and years. He used all his belongings to bribe the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper took it all, but only said, "I am taking this so that you do not feel you have left something undone." And he never let him in. The man grew old, his eyesight faded, and he realized his end was near. Just before his death, all the experiences of his entire life condensed in his mind into a single question. The man barely moved his stiff body and motioned for the gatekeeper to come closer. Everyone strives for destiny. How is it then that in all these decades, no one but me has ever asked to be admitted? The gatekeeper perceived that the man was nearing his end and shouted loudly into his ear, "No one else could ever be admitted here, because this gate was made only for you. I am now going to shut it." What did you think? Actually, this story deeply fascinated the genius director Orson Welles, who left his mark on film history. When he directed the film adaptation of Kafka's novel The Trial, he narrated this entire story himself at the very beginning, accompanied by an eerie shadow animation called pin screen. What on earth does this story mean? Which made the genius director say that this is the epitome of human absurdity. Generally, it is known under the title Before the Law, but this time I dared to call it the Gate of Destiny. The original German word, Gesetz, comes from a verb meaning to set or establish, and originally means something that has been set or destined. What the man spent his entire life trying to enter was not a law as a social rule, but the destiny of a human being born and dying. Perhaps it was the truth of his own life. Here I am reminded of a very impressive dialogue between Albert Einstein and the Indian philosopher Tagore, which took place in 1930. When Einstein argued that the moon certainly exists, even if I am not looking at it, Tagore replied like this: "Do we see the mystery of light and darkness in that celestial body? Or do we see countless atoms? If human consciousness no longer feels it as the moon, it is no longer the moon. This world exists only within human consciousness." The man in this story was standing exactly at the entrance to his own universe, which exists only within his own consciousness. In other words, I'll believe the figure of this protagonist is the embodiment of human existence, explored by existentialist thinkers such as Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Camus, and Sartre. Just before his death, the man asks the gatekeeper, "Why has no one else come here but me? If God created humans, as written in the Old Testament, we are all brothers and sisters, sharing the same blood, and we should be able to understand each other. However, as Nietzsche declared that God is dead, what if we are merely biological beings who happen to be born into this world? It means we are not brothers at all, but completely unrelated, lonely beings, completely disconnected from others." The fact that no one else came before the man, perhaps that signifies the absolute loneliness that human beings fundamentally harbor. The man wanted to know the truth of his own universe. However, instead of facing his inner self, he sought permission from an external authority called the gatekeeper. Believing that some great person would teach him the truth of his life, he ended his life waiting for permission from others. No one else can enter your universe. The gatekeeper's final words are ultimate loneliness and a cruel truth. This gate was made only for you. Now that you are dying, your universe also ends. Therefore, I am going to shut it. We all have our own gate of destiny. While waiting for someone's permission, one day that gate might suddenly be closed. How would you live in front of the gatekeeper?